How many of you have ever gone to the hospital for something? You needed to be treated. Maybe you were sick, or maybe there was an accident and you were in need of some medical treatment. Or maybe you had to take your child. Maybe you had a sick child and you had to take them to the hospital. But if you know, if any of you have ever been to the hospital, which I'm quite sure majority of you have, you would know that they ask you for consent of treatment. Before they treat you, before they do anything to you or for you to help you, they have you sign consent. You have to give them consent and sign this document that states that you are allowing them to treat you. So basically, they cannot help you until you sign this consent first. And for those of you who have minor children, you have to sign that consent for them. The doctors are not going to treat you. They're not going to work on you and give you what it is that you need. They won't even prescribe you medication unless that documentation is signed first, stating that you allow them to treat you. You have to give consent first of treatment. So just like you have to give consent for treatment when you go to the hospital, just like you have to give the medical team and the surgeons and doctors treatment before they are able to do what they need to do to help you, God is requiring you also to give him your consent of treatment before he heals and delivers you. And a lot of you are walking around here sick. You need healing. You need deliverance. You need breakthroughs and freedoms from some certain sins and bondages on your life, but you won't go to God and give him consent to treat you. You will not give him consent to help you and deliver you. You will not give him consent to get you out of your bondage. And see, now you're stuck because see, God ain't going to be able to do nothing without your consent. See, God is a loving, gracious God, but he's not going to just force and impose his will on people. Just like you have to give consent for the doctor, you have to give consent to God. And you give your consent by opening your mouth and asking him to heal you, asking him to deliver you, saying, God, I need this help. Would you help me? Because that's your consent. But see, when you don't do that, when you don't give him consent to treat you, see, everybody can pray for you all they want to. You can have people pray for you, but see, God still needs you to say, hey, it's okay to do this. It might be a person that drive you to the hospital, okay, because they know you need help. They know you need care, but you still have to give your consent. If you are you have your full faculties and your mental capabilities, and there's nothing wrong with you, you still have to get consent. The person can drive you to the hospital, but they cannot give consent for you. That's the same thing. So a person can pray for you to free you out of your bondage. They can pray that God comes in your life and helps you, but there's only so much that can be done until you give that consent for that deliverance, until you give that consent for the treatment, until you give that consent for whatever it is that God has that he needs to do for you in your life so you can receive the healing that you need. And see, a lot of you won't open your mouth. You won't ask God for that you won't give him that consent. You're being stubborn. You're being rebellious. You're being disobedient. You don't want to go to the doctor. You don't need no treatment. You're thinking that you're okay. But a lot of you are walking around here, you're not okay. When you're sitting up here and you can't let go of your sins and you on your way to hell because your soul ain't being saved and you're trapped in your sin and your bondage, you can't stop it now. Because see, that sin that took control. And when you out here causing problems and you don't know what to do, you say, God, you wondering what it is, you're sick. Okay, there's something that you need help and deliverance and freedom from. When you can't stop the lust, when the lust is over controlling you now and it's destroying your marriage and it's ruining your life and you can't be faithful to one person, when you're running around here, when you're touching and getting desires to touch on little children and you're looking at your daughter with a certain way, there's something that you need from God to help you. When you're caught in your bondage and you're looking at people with your own jealous, envious eyes and you're sitting out here putting curses and spells on people, or you're out here congregating and conversing with demons and conjuring up demons to do something, there is a need for some treatment. There is a need for some deliverance when you're habitually stealing and you're lying and you can't stop it. When your thoughts are all messed up and twisted on the inside. You got these dark desires that you can't let go of and they're taking a hold of you. Do you not know that there's a need for the Father? There's a need for the physician to intervene on your behalf. And a lot of you can't get out of that bondage because you ain't released that consent to God. You haven't released the consent that you need to give him for him to treat you. Now, when you release consent, just like when you're in the hospital, you release consent. They might do some stuff. They might take some x-rays because they need to look down on the inside, get to the bottom of what's going on. They need to see what's happening. They might prescribe, some IVs and give you your fluid and whatever it is that needs to get you going. They might prescribe a surgery. They might give you some medication, prescribe some prescriptions for you. But just like with God, he might prescribe you the word. He might prescribe you that word that you need to read. He might prescribe you to start praying. He might prescribe for you to go on a fast. He might prescribe for you to get some deliverance, some much needed deliverance and some demons cast out of you. Some unclean spirits need to go. He might prescribe you to start start praising and shouting in joy. He might prescribe you to have a little bit more faith. He might prescribe you to separate and cut some people out of your life and let go of some things. See, God got a prescription for you, but you have to give him consent to treat you. But as long as you holding up that consent, then he can't help you. There's nothing that can be done, and you will stay in your sickness and your bondage. You will not be treated.